Hey guys, welcome back to Pistons Talk Podcast. Hope you guys are having a great evening so far. I have a first time special guest. She's a sideline reporter for the Fanduel Sports Network, Natalie Kerwin. I'm so proud of myself I didn't call it Bailey. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Honestly, a lot of people still get it messed up, so it can be Bally/FanDuel, but no, FanDuel is the name we got to roll with. But thank you so much for having me on. It's been way too long that you've been trying to get me on this podcast. I'm glad we finally got a date set in stone, and we're doing it.
Yeah, I'm happy we could get it set up. I know I think I asked you before, but I think you were out of town or something like that. But I'm happy we could like get it set up. Before we kind of like get into the Pistons, because I'm sure we'll be talking like a lot of Detroit Pistons. I always like to ask people how they got started in sports media. So maybe just like give us maybe like a 30,000 foot view of like where you started and how you got to where you're at currently.
Okay, well, I'll try and put this in a nutshell as best as I can because I'm known to drag on my responses to this question. But basically, I mean, since I was little, I have always been a huge sports nut. Didn't know I wanted to have a career in sports per se, but sports was something I was always passionate about. I was a three-sport athlete in high school. I have always just lived and died by sports, watching them, playing them. So one of my English teachers in high school was like, "Hey, like, what are you studying in college when you go next year?" I was a senior, and I said, "Well, I'm going to Michigan State, but I'm undecided at the moment." And he's like, "Okay, well, you're good at my class, and we all know here in this school you love sports and you're good at them. So why don't you make sports journalism a career?" And I'm not kidding. That's like what set it off for me. I'm like, okay, never really thought about it. And I ended up going to do a job shadow locally here in Detroit because I'm from Michigan and grew up watching all the sports departments and news stations down here and shadowed the sports guys at Channel 7 for a day and was like, okay, I'm hooked. Like, I'm meant to do this. So ended up declaring journalism as my major. Went to Michigan State, had tons of internships while I was there, worked for the Big Ten Network, worked for Channel 4, internships wise, I mean. Worked for the men's basketball team, for our sports student radio station, covering the men's and women's basketball teams. And that's where really my love of basketball started. Or I guess I should say it got bigger. I've always been a Pistons fan, but that really helped it grow. Being a part of the legendary program that Tom Izzo has
Yeah.
continued to build there. And I never changed my mind. Like, my mind was always set on being a sports journalist. And I tried to do as much as I could in college to be well-rounded and make myself the best I could be once I graduated. So I graduated during COVID. I'm younger than a lot of you guys might think. I'm only 26. So I haven't been in this business all too long. It's only been 5 years, but I ended up getting a job during COVID, luckily, back up in Lansing, Michigan, working at a news station for 2 years. I was doing news and sports for them and back to covering MSU, high school sports, you name it, like just trying to
Yeah.
get my feet wet with everything. And then the door opened at what was Bally at the time, now FanDuel, to take a digital reporting job here. And I was told I would have some sideline opportunities at the time, but I didn't know how much that would grow. And within my last 3 years of being here, it has now turned into mostly sideline with digital in there still as well.
Mhm.
Um, but it's been crazy. It's a dream. It's a blessing. I'm here. I don't take it for granted, and especially being able to cover this Pistons team this season is like pinch me moment. And we'll get into all that, but in a nutshell, that's how I got here today.
Yeah, I would not think that you were I thought you were older just because you're very mature, just the way you carry yourself. Um, I thought you were my age, apparently not.
Hey, we're learning a lot already.
I mean, I'm Unk status. To my subscribers, I just went completely past Big Bro. I'm Unk status.
Um, I don't know. You're handling it pretty well. Malik Beasley does not handle the Unk name well, but you sound like you're okay over there with it.
Yeah, you just kind of have to live with it. I mean, I'll be 33 next week. It's just like, hey, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? You know what? I don't know. I feel like you can never guess anyone's age anymore. I don't know. With me, I do get told that a lot. Like, you carry yourself a lot older. I had no idea you were such a baby. So I'm called
Yeah, I
baby
mean,
now. So that's my nickname. So
women are usually more mature than men, anyways. So I mean, maybe I shouldn't be
tell it not
surprised. But it Unk status at 33 is crazy. Yeah, I know. In some
me.
comments live on Facebook. Yeah, like don't even. I already have like my little neighbor that's like 10. He's like, "Damn, Unk, you getting old." I was like,
I wish I could see these messages right now. You got to
"Yes,
share them with
we
me.
can
I want to be able
we
to.
can we can put them on the screen." There's a couple. You got Sean Kennedy watching live on Facebook. Yeah, it is crazy at 33. Um, got Keon Perez, who I always see on Twitter. Thanks for
Yep.
making time, Natalie. Yep, amazing. Love you guys though. We got over 154 people watching. I'm sure we'll have a lot more, coming in as we're doing this podcast. But
Love it.
yeah, your journey to sports media is honestly really interesting. I know mine is like completely wild. Like I got started at 15. Like first job was working with WWE as like just an internship where
Wow.
we ran this wrestler's Facebook page, and like he was really popular with the fans, but he would lose every match. It was like the wildest thing. Like I was really fortunate to do that. But I've been in sports media for like the past like 12 years. I've been really blessed to like work for some like really big companies, and for whatever reason, I always work at startups, and then they get huge. I
Hey,
don't I don't
it's
I don't
you.
have
I don't know how they're growing into what they are, but that's awesome. I mean, look at this podcast itself. Like the following that you have, it's incredible. Like I was telling you earlier, like we see the work you put in as media and it helps us. It makes our job easier too. So it's a two-way street and it's awesome to see what you're doing. So
Yeah, it's like I grew up with George, Greg, Mickey when he was a lot younger. I remember Mickey when he was like in his 20s and had no facial hair. Like
yeah.
like honestly, like everybody, like I think I started watching when it was like FSN, like Fox Sports Net, like when I was like probably like 4 or 5, like when it was like on basic cable, like
Yeah.
basically free. So I mean, again, I'm showing my unk status of
I know
how
you're not
damn old I am.
making but yeah, I mean, it's a long time then that you've been watching the crew kind of. I mean, it's been mostly the same over the years, and then I guess I slid in here about 3 years ago now. But
Yeah.
George, Greg, the whole squad, still going strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think before you it was Brooke, and then before Brooke it was I want to say Laura or Lauren. I always get it confused. But I mean, yeah, I remember watching even like Ryan Fields, like when then Johnny took over. It was just like, man, it's just it's so cool just to get to know you guys like personally and just like watch the growth throughout the years, like because you guys get so much better like on the mic and just like content wise and storytelling, which I think the storytelling I think kind of goes underrated in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I mean, honestly, that is my favorite part of my job. I mean, I wouldn't be in this if I didn't love to tell the guys' passions and stories and find out the little things that the average fan wouldn't know. I think that's the cool thing. That's what's memorable after you watch a game. Like from a fan perspective, you're like, okay, like might not remember all the stats from that night, but I do remember when Natalie or Johnny or whoever shared that bit about that guy. So I love it. I love being able to have that inside scoop with these guys and be able to share it. And I appreciate that you notice the growth and all that with us because I
Oh
think
yeah.
each season, like we get better, we get closer. Obviously, with just the way this unbelievable season has turned out so far, the success makes our job easier too. So it's like we get those stories from the guys much easier than we did in years past. But yeah, no, it's the most rewarding part of the job for sure.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think some people like don't understand like some of these players can be like really like transparent and other players just don't want to talk to you. Like I feel like this team is very open and they'll give you the time if you ask for it. But like in years past, especially during this rebuild, I think a lot of guys just didn't really want to open up too much. But um it's pretty cool to see. I did want to ask you just like one more question of like what is it like to work with Greg and George and Grant and just ever win at Fanduel.
It is truly amazing. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Like the minute I walked in there, it felt like family to me. And I think people toss that around lightly, but it truly feels that way there. Like I feel supported by everyone, even though I'm kind of lowest on the totem pole, right? And I'm the only female that FanDuel has. So in a way, I try and kind of take that as motivation, but I feel respected by everyone. And those guys are obviously George and Greg. They've been with the Pistons for years. They are legends. They are synonymous with the Pistons brand. And then Grant, like his years in the NBA as well. And Mickey, who's been here forever. Johnny, like they all make me feel like I'm just as much a part of this as they are. And it's just, I love working with them. I couldn't be more grateful. They're so complimentary. They're helpful. If I have any basketball questions or just questions in life, like they'll all answer the phone. They'll all help me out. I couldn't ask for a better situation to be in, like truly.
Yeah, or Grant just will make a selection for beat the number for you.
Well, I wasn't going to throw him under the bus. We can add that in there. Every time I'm like, dude, I know I'm not on every game, but like, help me out here. Like, I'm sitting here. Like, Tim did it to me the other day too. When he comes on, he's like, okay, me and Mickey pick Cade Cunningham. I'm like, hello, I'm filling in for Mickey tonight. And he's like, oh, whoops. It's okay. I mean, I'm used to it. Whatever. I just gotta keep giving them the subtle jabs. Like they'll learn it.
Yeah, you got to call them out, because then they're not going to be like wanted to be called out. Like, you should have said we're picking this player tonight, and that's the final say.
I know. Well, I think I did that last time I was with Grant. I was like, I'm not letting him walk all over me or do that again. And here's the thing. Whenever I do fill in, we normally, whoever's team I'm on, we kick butt and beat the number every time. I feel like my picks are always spot on. Not every time, but I'm like, okay, we got our 10 points tonight. Like, you got to listen to me a little bit more. I don't know. I'm working my way up. Don't you worry. I'll keep razzing them for it.
They should just give you your own team and kick all their asses.
Why not at this point? I wish I was on a team. I kind of feel like I'm on my lone island. Like, they're like, okay, you're with Johnny tonight. You're with Grant. You're with Mickey. I'm like, how about Team Kerwin? Like, just in itself. I like this idea. Back in the day, they used to have all separate teams, and then they combined them to make it, I don't know, just to change it up and make it different and like give us teams. But
Yeah, I do remember that. It was just like I think Greg won it like 3 years in a row. He was kicking everyone's butt. Like it was like 500, and the closest was like maybe like Johnny like at 300. I was like, dang, Greg, chill out.
I know. I think they also realized with basketball, it makes it a little bit harder just because there's not as many guys to pick from. Like when we play it, like pick the stick for the Tigers or like the Wings, like there's more guys to choose from. So it just, I don't know. I think teams makes it a little bit easier, but who knows? That game it frustrates all of us.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's frustrating.
Yeah, like I said, I would probably be stressed out, like because I'm just such an organized person. So like in my head, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm taking Cade. Someone takes Cade, and I'm like, I'm gonna take Malik. Someone take Malik. Then I'd be like, I don't know, just give me whoever. Like,
no, when you're the third team to pick, that's always how it goes. Like lately, it's like, okay, Cade's always first or Malik or vice versa. And I guess Jalen Duren's been in the mix too. But it's like sometimes when you're in that third spot, you're like, okay, I'm just going to take a gamble and like grab so-and-so off the bench or whatever. And sometimes it works out for you. But yeah, I don't know. It's always, I had the first spot last night. So we took Cade, which was nice and worked out for us quite well. So
I would say so. I would just be a sicko and just choose an opposing player off the bench that I know is not going to play and score well, just to get the easy 5 points like every time.
No one does that enough. I think we get scared. The only one that's willing to do it is Grant. And he's done it before, and he'll be like, Nat, how do you feel about taking so-and-so? I'm like, dude, we're not going down that road. But honestly, maybe we will. Now that we're talking about it, could be an easy 5 points one night. Yeah. And I'm confused on who to take. So
take like the 11th man on the opposing bench because you're getting the 5 points and he's not going to play.
I know. Why don't we go with that strategy?
It's a dirty strategy. That's just because I used to play fantasy basketball all the time, and I got to the point where it's just like not doing it anymore. It's not a challenge. The only challenge I did have is when James Edwards did his like athletic. Um, it was like a 15 team like fantasy league, and I want to talk about stress. Like my team was so bad. I was just like, James, we cannot do 15 teams, man. Like my team sucks.
I love that we're talking about James Edwards right now. I feel sad for him that he's missing out on this Pistons run. I can tell
uh,
it's from afar. James, if you're listening, love you, man.
He was a little snippy yesterday when people said it was your fault why they sucked. And he was like, they sucked when I got there. So I was like, damn, James.
I know. We missed him here. Like he's from here. He's watching from afar, and he's fantastic at what he does. He's a great writer, and the Knicks are really lucky to have him. But
Yeah.
I know we want him back here. It would be nice. But Hunter Patterson's done an awesome job, too, filling in for him. So
Yeah. I love James. I had him on multiple times last year. Like he was so gracious with this time. And same with Hunter. Hunter's just, you can tell Hunter's really eager just to like, get it going. Like it had a buddy of mine, Eric Vincent, on, and Hunter asked him, is just like, he's like, is it always this cold? Because like Hunter's from like Southern California. He's not used to it. He's like, yeah, man, like this is winter. He's like, man.
I know. Every time I've seen him lately, he's like, somehow I made it here to shoot around. But let me tell you, driving here in the snow was not something that I'm used to. I feel bad. It's like I don't know, it's like a rude awakening for anyone that's not from the Midwest. We're like, sheesh, how have you guys survived this for your whole lives? I'm like, I've lived here all 26 years of my life, and I'm still not used to it and never will be. So, yeah, but he's awesome, and he is eager. Like that's a great way to put it. I feel like our whole core of like beat writers and just media that cover this team, it's just an awesome group of people, and we're all just, I don't know, we can relate, and it's fun. And Hunter's one of them, so that's great.
Yeah, I feel like the Detroit Pistons beat probably, just in my opinion, best beat in the city. Like just because I've had basically everyone on from Omari to Hunter to Eric to Sean Murphy. I did a podcast with Koo. Still trying to get him back on here. I want to get Koo on because I love Koo.
I was on his pod. Let's get him on.
Yeah. I know maybe after he does this full time, because I was watching his pod with you and says he's going to do it full time. I love that we have so many Detroit Pistons content creators that want to do this full time. Like Pistons Jack, shout out to him. Like he looks like a little kid. Like every Pistons post, like he's so happy. Like he's smiling ear to ear. I'm so happy for him because I know how hard that kid works.
Oh my gosh. Well, all you guys do, but for him specifically, the guy's coming from across the world. And I've followed his page forever, and he posts great stuff. And I got to meet him the last couple of games that he's been here. I don't think he's going to go back to Australia. I think he's going to stay.
No shot.
Yeah, I think he tweeted that. He's like, I'm not leaving. We're winning the next 10 games or something. Like he's like, I'm going to stay here until we lose. I'm like, okay. Looks like your pal going to be building
one of my followers made just a dumb joke, say like, I'll marry Jack for a visa, like right now. It's just like if we keep winning. I was like, you guys are crazy. Like, shout out to Jack though. But I
bringing him his jersey. I just want to add that too. Like, we already know Cade's such a good guy, but man,
yeah,
shows you the players pay attention to what you guys do. And they're watching the content, and he knew exactly who Jack was and literally gave him the jersey off of his back, his sweaty jersey. So
yeah,
what a moment. I love that for him. And we're happy to have him here and give him that love, that he deserves.
Yeah, I remember talking to Ashton like 2 months before the draft because I was trying to set up an interview at one of the previous jobs that I worked at because we were trying to get Cade. Like the night after the draft, we set everything up, and then the Tigers are like, "Hey, want to throw the first pitch?" I was like, "Oh, damn it!" But I was telling Ashton, I was like, "Pistons are drafting Cade 1. You don't got to sweat it." Like he's like, "Oh, so I gotta clear with the Cade's agent." I was like, "Don't worry. Like he's going 1. They're not taking Mobley. They're not taking Green, best player in the draft." Like, and he was just like, "All right, if you think so." And then he went to the Tigers game like a month before he got drafted. Like he knew. He knew. He was locked in.
For sure. He's always, from day one since he got here, he's been locked in. He's wanted to be with Detroit. And I was reading an awesome story today on him. I don't know if you read the article that came out in The Ringer.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, fantastic. Just goes through his whole journey of like being the guy at Oklahoma State, and then coming in here his first year and dealing with an injury, and then obviously the losing streak, and then like being able to see the success now and how much he's grown. The article kind of tapped into his mindset. He's such a quiet guy, like a quiet leader in a way, vocally, I mean. But it was interesting just to see, his journey. And he's like, I've always wanted to be here. Like, water the grass where you are. That was the quote that stood out to me. Water the grass
Yeah.
where you are, and like you're gonna grow and flourish. And that's what he's doing. It's just he's a stud. He's an all-star. Like it's been incredible to see his development.
Yeah, it's hard to believe he's not 25. He's so mature. Like, I would think he's 30 just with his mindset. Like, he's a 10-year vet, like, mentally. And like, I don't even think he's scratching the surface of the type of player he's going to be. Because I think there's another gear or two for him to like even like get to. And that's kind of scary thinking about it, just the way he's playing. But I did want to ask you a fun question. And I want to know, who's your favorite player that you covered so far? It doesn't have to be Pistons related. It could be Tigers related, Red Wings related, or even, through maybe college when you were, doing sports media in that way.
This is such a good question. Um, I feel like I've been lucky here in Detroit. There have been so many like cool young players. Like since I got here 3 years ago, but whether it was on the Tigers or here with the Pistons, like that both teams have been so young, so it feels like I can relate to everyone in a way. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know. I guess just the first guy that popped into my mind really is Malik Beasley. I've never been around someone like him in my life. Like I've had the chance to interview like really great dudes that like bring a lot of energy and they're fun, but
Hmm.
no one on his level. And I think
No.
there's other reporters that agree with me that would put his name at the top. So that's my answer for you. I mean, last night he even took it to a whole new level. Like he was adding things to his shimmies that I have never seen before. Like he keeps upping his game. And I've asked him about it and he's like, well, sometimes, you just gotta, when you're really feeling yourself, like everything else just kind of comes out. I don't really know like what's happening in the moment. I'm just kind of like doing what I'm feeling. And he's like, his energy is infectious. He affects the guys around him. And I think for us too as media, it makes it so fun. Like fans were standing up yesterday in the stands as soon as the ball left his hands because they knew he was going to make his three.
Yeah.
So he's a character. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth. And like, we wouldn't have gotten that quote from Cade the other day, like, don't touch me, I'm sizzling, without Malik to him. Like he's like the catalyst for the way this team's chemistry has come together. Like, I think he's a huge reason for it, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. I made a top 10 list, and Malik was in my top 10 list.
Okay.
I remember talking with a good friend of mine, Corey Woods, who covers the Lions.
Yeah.
When he used to do Pistons, but he got promoted. So shout out to Corey. I said, why aren't Pistons fans talking about Malik Beasley? And he's just like, bro, he's like, his mom's from Detroit, she's from 6 Miles. It's like, he's like, you might be onto something. And I was just like, he's a good shooter. They need 3-point shooting. Like, no disrespect to the players last year, but they didn't have a whole lot of spacing. Like, you get an elite sharpshooter, and not to mention, like, off the court, the positivity.
Oh my
Probably
gosh.
one of the most positive people that you can tell on camera. Like when you're interviewing him, I can tell like the energy is infectious. Like you're smiling, he's smiling, everyone's smiling. Like like the fact that you got like Jarrett Jack and Luke Walton jumping up and down when like they do something crazy on the bench. Like if Asar has a dunk, like coaches are supposed to like kind of like be professional, but they're not professional. They're jumping up and down like they're players still. Like you can just tell like the team's vibing.
Yes. And like, that's how I've never seen chemistry like this before, at least with a team that I've covered. But talking to other people too, like I haven't seen a Pistons group gel like this in, I mean, a long time. I don't even know how long. It's just with when the coaches are involved like that, and the players have that bond with those coaches too. Like Jarrett Jack was with us last year, right through the ups and downs, and
Mhm.
like I think he's he's feeling the success now just as much as the guys are. And like, as a former player himself, and for Luke too, like both of them feel what the guys are feeling. Like the energy is unreal. And like we've gotten shots on the bench of like Jarrett hugging Cade, like from the other night, like that picture is like living in my head right now. And it's just, I don't know, for Malik specifically too, like going back to him and like what he brings, he's embraced this city to its fullest, and he knows he's a fan favorite here. And I think that's why he's really tapping into just his craziness and the fun side, because he knows fans love that stuff. Like there are some guys that are just more, the quiet leaders that are just going to do their talking with their play. And then there's guys that Malik that do both. And he's got everyone around him, and he's what this team needed. And the personality is engaging, and he's the kind of guy that you want on your team. And for him, like, I hope he gets sixth man of the year. Like, he wasn't able to participate in the 3-point contest. Last night was super personal for him, obviously going to Pritchard. But I hope he, gets that chance he gets his flowers nationally. And that's something that he secures this year, because he's already setting records with us. He's just, there's so much to say about him, but he's definitely been a favorite for me to cover.
Yeah, me too. The too small against Peyton Pritchard, like it was personal. Like that was my final score graphic, and then I put like the little Celtics thing, and it pissed so many Celtics fans off, and I love it.
Honestly, you know what? It's like, I think it was a 12-game losing streak we were on against them. Like, Pistons fans had every right to just go out and live it up last night with this.
Yeah.
So, no, it's awesome. And, he wants to be here is the biggest thing. Like, I go back to trade deadline when he went up to Trajan Langdon and said, please do not trade me. I want to be here. When do you hear players do that? I just feel like that's not often, or at least we don't hear about him. He's behind the scenes. But like, to be so vocal, like, yeah, we want you here then. Like, you're our new favorite. That's awesome that you want to be a part of this. So I have a lot more respect for him too, by the fact.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Like, when's the last time you could say your head coach is in conversations for coach of the year, your executives in conversations for executive of the year,
yep,
your franchise player is probably making all NBA, and Malik Beasley is, I think, the second odd favorite to win sixth man of the year. Like, when's the last time you could say that, like, watching a Detroit Piston team?
I mean, this team is the craziest story in sports right now. Like, I can't wrap my head around it. Like, you already have more wins this year than the last two combined. Hit rock bottom at 14 wins last year.
Yeah.
I would have never thought they would have turned it around this quickly, and neither did Trajan or JB. Like, we both have said, we obviously didn't know what this season would turn out like, and both of them have the same mindset about all of this. Like, we're focused on the process. We don't care what team it is. Like, even last night, like, blowing out the Celtics by 20, JB was like, yeah, like it was a good win. Like, I like, that was awesome to see, but like, we're not finished yet. Like, no one's ever satisfied.
Yeah.
And I just the combination of Trajan and JB together and what they want to do to bring back Detroit basketball, like, we're seeing that develop at a much quicker pace than we even imagined. And then for Cade to develop into an all-star this year, amazing. For Malik to come in and make as big of an impact as he has, along with the other vets. And yeah, I mean, all the things you just named, like, I just, it's hard to explain. Like, it's crazy. The national media is giving the team so much praise, and we're just not used to it, right? Like, I turn on ESPN, like NBA Today or First Take this morning with Stephen A. Smith, like, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I can't process it. Like, do you feel this? Like, I know all you Pistons fans out there feel like that, but even for us media, it's like, whew, like, how?
Yeah, like, full transparency, I had this team winning between 27 and 31. Like, those were my expectations. I said, playing should be the goal. Like, there's enough talent. You had veterans. they shattered those expectations really early. And JB's a man of his word. He said, "Come February, you'll see Detroit Pistons basketball." You look at the statistics. They're number one in defensive rating during the win streak. They're top five in a lot of categories. Like you'd probably have to go back to like the Rick Carlisle days when you had like a coach of the year, executive of the year, sixth man of the year. And a lot of those teams, I think a lot of Pistons fans still talk about to this day. The go and the work Pistons, like that's what I grew up on. Like when they
Right.
won a championship, I was in sixth grade. And everyone was hyped. Like even like a casual fan, like knew who Ben Wallace was. Like, and it's like I think with this group, I see a lot of similarities to like the early 2002-03 when they went from 32 wins to 50 wins. I see a lot of similarities because I don't think they're as far away as people actually think. I think they're maybe a piece or two away from like contending in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that about the 02-03 Pistons because I was just talking about that yesterday with some people, and it's like it's just the way that these guys have come together, and you have your core that's been together the last couple of years, and like they've all grown kind of at the same time. Like this year, they've just taken that step together, and I feel like that's what's made the biggest difference, along with getting a guy in JB Bickerstaff that knows what it's like to coach in the playoffs, and he's got that defensive minded mentality. And that's what this group has needed. And like they're playing gritty, hard nosed basketball. And that's why it does remind us so much of those early 2000s teams, like leading up to the Go Into Work Pistons championship in 04. And it's just, I don't know, like, yeah, you can't help but kind of reflect back on those old times. And yes, I was very young too when they won the championship. So I can't say I was watching them on a night-to-night basis either. There's your unk status again, and my baby. But for real, like it's, I mean, a new coach, a new system, like it goes to show how much of a difference it makes. It really does. They needed this. They needed a new mentality, a new reason to go out there and like play for something bigger than themselves and like have a new way of going about it. Like that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, it's honestly really cool to see. Like I thought they would be improved with just adding the pieces, a new voice, and it's kind of funny if you want to kind of connect the dots. The last Cleveland coach they got fired and got hired by the Pistons was Chuck Daly.
I saw this tweet today.
Yeah, turned out pretty well. I mean,
Yep.
JB's really locked in. I mean, like his nephew just made a Twitter last night, and he was
Yeah, I
just
saw that too. I was like,
like
okay, shout out Jordan Bickerstaff, I think is his name.
yeah, and then like I've had like JB's wife, like she followed me like really early in the season, and like thing about her is just like she's like all like ride or die for JB. Like it's honestly funny. Like I don't know if you watch the Road Tripping podcast with Richard
Oh,
Jefferson. Oh, you should watch it. Like he kind of talks about like how there was a little bit of beef with Jamal Mosley. Or more Richard Jefferson kind of caused the beef because he's childish, but um I'll send you the podcast. It's honestly really funny. You kind of get to see like his just like coaching side and his mentality of like just like how competitive he is as a basketball coach and like how he's super locked in and so is his family.
yeah, I can see that. I would love to. I'll have to listen to that because we've gotten glimpses of JB and his friendship with Jamal Mosley. Like they go way back. We've told that story before when they played the Magic, and it's funny. Like I could hear from asking Jamal personally when we were in Orlando about JB. Like he's got that fun side to him. Like it's not all basketball all the time, and I love that. That he's able to have a lot of fun too. So I gotta listen to that. Definitely send me that.
Yeah, I will send you that after we're done here. I wanted to kind of just get like your point of view of like the vibes this year because I remember commenting on Pistons Media Day. I was like, man, something feels different and I don't know what it is. I couldn't put my finger on it. But like from just your vantage point, like how are the vibes with this team getting to interviewing them and covering them?
Vibes are at an all-time high. Like it hasn't been better. And I don't like I had said earlier, I don't remember a Pistons team in gosh. mean, I'll ask you this, like, when do you remember the vibes being high last for this organization? Like, what group?
I'll probably get laughed at for this, but when the Pistons waived Josh Smith and they just went on a heater, it was like Brandon Jennings, KCP. They signed Anthony Tolliver, who Lindy Waters actually like chose his jersey, and a lot of people on this is literally like, you better be shooting those threes, boy. Like you can wear 43, but probably that team because like they weren't a bad basketball team as constructed, but like when they went on that little heater, they won 7 games in a row. They started getting confident. Like Brandon Jennings was probably playing the best ball of his career before he had that Achilles injury. But I mean, those are probably like that's the last team I could think of my Pistons fandom, and probably before that, like the 02 year. I mean, I started watching Pistons basketball during the Grant Hill era, like in '97. So I mean, like those are probably the 2 teams that I think off the top of my head right away.
Okay. No, those are good answers. But it goes to show, like, it's still been a minute since then. I think, I mean, the reason the vibes are so high, there's a lot that's gone into it. I think just a new regime always is a fresh start for everyone. I think having a coach that has the ability to really create a relationship with all of his guys. Of course, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I know he has had personal meetings with every guy. I know when he sat down with Cade Cunningham at the beginning of the year, he's like, I want to be coached hard and I want to be the best player I can be for you. And JB's like, okay, like, first of all, what better guy to come and say that than Cade, the superstar? And he's like, this is the kind of, I want all my guys to have that mentality. So that's what JB preaches each and every day. Like, it's the process. We're focused on that over results. You know, and JB believes that every guy can be successful in their roles, whatever that means. And I think the guys believe in that now too. Not that they didn't in years past, but it's like, I mean, you look at last season, and I think confidence for every single person in that locker room was at an all-time low. And they felt like they couldn't reach the top. Like, there was just no getting out of it. So I think this year what's changed is leadership, you know, coming in and just being encouraging and telling them, we're not even going to talk about last year. JB's told us that, like, I don't let them talk about last season. Like, we'll acknowledge it if we're asked about it, but the focus is now. And then I think bringing in the veterans was huge. You needed a group that, one, could create spacing on the floor. That was a huge issue we could see last year. But number 2, you needed guys that were able to not only show an example by their play on the floor, but I think vocally too. Like Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., those are 3 guys that are all vocal leaders. And we hit on Bees already. Like, that guy is just a walking soundbite. But the other guys, like, I overhear them in the locker room, like, encouraging the other people. Ron Holland told me just yesterday, like, this isn't referring to the veterans, but like a guy like Cade and a guy like JD, like, guys are speaking up before the game. They have pre-game locker room speeches, like, every game night. And Ron is telling me it usually rotates between Cade and JD. And they get the guys hype. And, like, he wasn't telling me what they'd specifically say because maybe some of it's a little vulgar. I don't know. I can imagine to get him But it's like you know, I think those veterans have rubbed off on Cade and JD to, like, speak up and give those speeches. And, like, and Ron was saying, like, how inspirational it is for us to, like, have all of us believe in each other like that. And just, yeah, Malik, Tobias, Tim, like, just specifically, I guess, going back to the vets, like, they've just made such a difference. And, like, they all have playoff experience. They all know what it's like to be a part of winning cultures. Like, I think when you have guys with that experience, they're like teachers in a way to the young guys here. So I think all of that just encompassing is just why the vibes are high. Like, they believe they can go in and beat any team every night. And they walked into LA last night maybe feeling like, okay, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. And they blow them out by 20. Like, and then Denver coming in tomorrow. Like, who knows what's going to happen? So I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to be at fault with the Pistons fans if I jinx this. But
don't blame it on me. Don't blame it on me.
Yeah, blame it on him. Blame it on Anthony, not me, not poor Nat. But it's like, that's why I think vibes are high. You just have people in that locker room that are just positive all the time. It makes the biggest difference when you're in that environment. So it makes it fun for us. Like, we go in there and guys are just willing to talk and say whatever, joke around. Like, Malik and Ron last night were talking about their battles on Call of Duty. And I'm like, okay, who's better? And then they like got into it. They both think each other is better. So there is no answer to that. But,
Yeah.
you're able to like just have fun. They all hang out outside of games, practice with 24 anyway. But like, they have a friendship there. Like, they're all besties. You can see it on the bench. So it's special.
Yeah, I think JB's a really big part of that. Like, I still remember like the introductory press conference, him saying like, "I want this to be fun for them, because if it's not fun, then they're not going to look forward to actually playing basketball and coming to work." And I think you see them having fun. Like you mentioned, Malik Beasley shimmies used to be like a second, now they're like 30 seconds. And even JB had a quote about it last night, saying like he's influencing next generation of basketball players to develop bad habits, and they don't want to get back on defense, my son included. And I was just like, oh man, even JB's son is shimmying. Like, that's how you know it. So that's how you know it's funny.
Quote of the night. Seriously, we were all dying when he said that. And it's true. Like, it's not only that one dance move is not only infectious with like the other guys on the team, but you're bringing JB's son into it now. Like, that just goes to show, like, just, I don't know. Like, you can't replace the fun stuff. Like, that goes a long way. Like, you can be a good basketball team, but you have to have the bond and the fun and like live it up in it, And I think JB, like you said, encourages that, and the players are like, okay, like, we're doing that. We'll buy into that part of it as well. So the culture is being set and built the right way, and you can just see it. Like, that is why it's turned around so quickly.
Yeah, and I feel like you guys get a post game soundbite at least once a game. Sizzling. There was one last night that I'm not gonna repeat because it's actually kind of funny if you know the meaning of it. But I mean,
From,
I just what's it?
from Tim Hardaway Jr. when
Yeah, because I know JD called him that, but Cade wasn't around a couple of weeks ago when Johnny was interviewing him. But I
it was
mean, it's
actually me that he said that too, and I didn't. I guess we won't say it here, but
yeah.
he said it to me, and like, I didn't in the moment. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to ask Kate about this, and then I never did. And then when Tim brought it up last night, I'm like, okay, Kate, and he was real quick to say, we're not. I can't. You just said that on TV because we're not doing that. He's like, I just want to be called Cade Cunningham, and I saw so many different nicknames going around the last.
Oh.
And he wants to be called by his name. Like, I don't know. That's the end of the argument. Like, he said it right there for all of us,
Yeah, he definitely saw the paradox, or what's the other one? The architect. I was just like, Basketball Reference is going to have to update his nicknames, and I don't think the spreadsheet's going to be big enough because I feel like he's got 10 nicknames from the fan base.
He does. I mean, I think the one that he has seen the most, and like the league has even called him, is Motorcade.
Yeah.
I remember when he made the All-Star game, I think it said, the motorcade is headed to the Bay. And it's like, okay, that one I think we can still live with, but it's either that or Cade, and that is it. And he will tell you that too.
I like Cartier Cade, but I still laugh every time because he lost his Cartier sunglasses on draft night. Like, he just completely lost them. He was his partying that night. He's like, screw it.
I know, screw it. I know. Well, it's a good thing he can get more.
Yeah. Yeah, you just go to Hutch Jewelry. They'll get you all set up. I do have one final topic. I think it'll be a fun one, especially with the way this team is just playing at a really high level. So, kind of looking like at the Eastern Conference landscape, like, what's one team you personally would like to see the Pistons battle in the playoffs?
The Pacers.
Yeah, me too.
The Pacers. I mean, every game we've played against them this year has been so entertaining, whether it's, seeing Stu get ejected, guys in each other's faces. Like, that is the old, like, bad boys gritty type of basketball that we like to see. Like Ron Holland getting in there too. He's like a mini Isaiah. Um, just there's an extra intensity and extra passion. And obviously it goes back to the old rivalry with them back in the day. But, I think that rivalry has still laid underneath the surface all these years. And it's coming back to fruition now. And the guys are bought into that. Like it's automatically like, we don't like you, they don't like us, and we're gonna go ham. And we've just seen that. It's just an entertaining game that you get, and that feistiness is fun to watch. And I think you put that in a playoff atmosphere, whew, I don't know what we'd see. I don't know what kind of game action would unfold, but like that's what I would want to see. And I'm glad we're on the same page about that. I feel like every Pistons fan, that was probably their first thought too, but that would be fun.
The reason why I want the Pacers isn't for basketball reasons. It's
Oh,
storyline reasons.
okay.
Because there's so many players that you guys could talk about. You could talk about Benedict Mathurin and Jaden Ivey not liking each other. You got the 5th and the 6th pick.
Yep.
You could talk about Isaiah Stewart and Thomas Bryant not only being from the same place in Rochester, New York, but they work out together in the summers. So there's like some real, they battle with each other in the summers. Then you got Cade and Tyrese Halliburton. They know each other, but you can tell Cade just wants to go at them like all the time. Now you even have dads going at it. I don't know if you saw Tim Hardaway Sr.
Yeah, I did. So, it's like everyone's getting involved. And don't forget either Isaiah Stewart and Miles Turner. They have their moment.
The Legos.
About the Legos, yeah. So it's like, okay, like you're right. I didn't even think about that. There's so many individual storylines in the game too that play into it, between both teams. So I just think the guys would be happy to play anyone, but I think for them, like there's a little extra oomph when they see that name on the schedule. So that would be fun. I'm so happy where they're at right now. 6th seed. Like if the playoffs were to start today, they'd skip the play-in. They're in. Like,
yeah.
It just to even be in this spot, like they believe they can beat anyone they play. Like whoever they line up with in the playoffs, like I think they fully believe they can win that series. So I'm anxious to see what unfolds the next few months.
Yeah, same here. I know Chuck Brewer said he'd love to see the Knicks, so we'd get the national spotlight. That's a good one too. I piss so many Knicks fans off. New York Knicks fans do not like me, and the feeling is mutual. But honestly, like you have like Knicks beat reporters quote tweeting you saying this, like Pistons fans are so unbearable.
Really? They think that? I mean, they're loyal here. Like Pistons fans are so loyal. They've rode through the ups and downs with the team, and like they've survived last year, and they're even more in full force this season. Like the fans here are like the city. Like they're gritty, they're blue collar. Like they will ride or die for this group. So I don't know with this. I mean, with the way the team's going right now, Pistons fans should be living it up. And of course, other teams will be annoyed or like their fan bases because we actually have success. You'd think they'd be happy for us.
It's the video I posted of Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren celebrating in their locker room, just vibing, singing a song. They're like celebrating after a win, like it's the playoffs, and I was just like, okay, don't be mad because you spent all your draft picks on Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns and you still lost. Like, don't be mad. Like you just got beat. Like Cade went crazy that game. He dropped like 30 in the second half, and there was nothing they could do about it. But I'd be pretty salty too if I was a Knicks fan.
Yeah. Speaking of videos too, this one just crossed my mind, and I meant to bring this up earlier. Did you see the video the Pistons posted last night of the guys in the hallway dancing?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things I think I've seen in a while, content-wise, from them. It made me laugh. Like Malik leading the charge, Ron behind him. Like, if you guys want to talk about chemistry, what we were elaborating on earlier, like that's all you need to look at. And you're like, okay, this team's unstoppable.
Yeah, the social media managers for the Detroit Pistons, I think they do such a good job of like spotlighting just like viral moments, like stuff like that. Like I was just dying. It felt like I don't know why my mind went to like runway, like modeling, because that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it did. It did feel like they were on a runway, and I feel like that was kind of the point, but the music was spot on. And you're right, the social crew over there, they're all fantastic people, so creative, and they have really bought into like what the fans want to see do, and they've shown the players in such a positive light and show all their funny moments, and that kind of stuff is what brings new fans in and like helps grow the organization and the brand. Like it's awesome to see. So they've done a really good job of that. Like I look forward to seeing the Pistons won again videos after a dub. Like that's like now we know to go on and look for those. It's great. Like they're growing along with the team.
Yeah, I love to see it. Like I've seen more probably posts from Cade this year than I've probably seen in the past like 3 years from him. Like I love to see that. Like he's just more happy and more positive because he barely posted like during the first couple of years.
Right. I know. Like it's a domino effect. Malik posts pretty much every night.
Oh yeah.
But I love it, right? Like you get good fan engagement. And he's super active with the community, with his streams and all of that. And like, yeah, Cade's posting a ton, like all the guys are, and they'll share each other's stuff too. Like they're super proud of each other. It really is, it's a brotherhood. And I just love how much like love they're giving one another. Especially just like if one of them has a really good night, like they're posting each other's highlights. It's super cool. Like for us to see that.
Yeah, I think it's really cool, especially from like a fan perspective, because like I've been like doing this probably since 2013. Like obviously started on Facebook and then as Instagram got introduced, started getting on there and like some of the messages I get, like when we lose, good Lord. But overall, like fans are just so like diehard. They remember some things that I don't even remember watching live on TV. It's just like they're so locked in with this team, and they're like, "Oh, let's go for 9 straight." They're like, "What?" They like pulled the Cade McNamara. Like, what happens if we win out? Like,
Mm-hmm.
28-game winning streak.
Right. Oh my gosh. I know. We'll talk about how the tables would turn if that were to happen. But we all know winning streaks are really hard to come by, especially in this league. And like even being at 8 right now is it's amazing. Like Pistons and the Cavs have been the two best teams since the trade deadline, record wise. They're both undefeated. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And who knows? Like, could it be 9 straight tomorrow? We will see. I'm not saying anything, but
It is Michigan State night tomorrow at LCA, so
that's a good thing. I'll be there. I'll be working. I'll be reporting tomorrow. So that's my kind of night.
Did you see like their college theme night? I thought it was a typo. Like after Michigan State night, it's Ohio State night.
Is it really?
Yeah, for I was like Ohio State night for Michigan alum. I was like, I'm sorry. Is this a troll? Like, is this a joke?
About that.
I know there are some people in the organization that are obviously like from like Ohio or Ohio State fans. Like I know like Ben Carloni, big Ohio State guy, Brody.
Yeah.
Johnny. I know Johnny's a big Ohio State guy, but I was like,
hey, I work with one of them. He'll be hyped to do that on Saturday.
He's probably gonna get a hoodie and wear it during the broadcast. Like
probably will. I'll be on that game again with him. So I'm sure we will be talking about that at some point. But yeah, he's ride or die OSU. I'm ride or die MSU. So, it's fun to have that in the group. But
we do have some questions from people that are watching live for you, if you don't mind answering them.
Sure.
This is from one of my buddies. You got to change your name. I don't think you're drinking, or maybe you are. Question for the podcast. Wanted to know.
You got to change that. Drink in a good way.
Yeah, maybe.
In a good way. It can't be a bad way at this point.
I know this isn't Pistons related. He wanted to know if either of us have had any interactions with Andy Isaac.
I have on Twitter, and I have never had the chance to meet him in person. But from what I have seen over the years, just being in the media, he is just an incredible human being, sports fan, diehard Detroit sports fan,
Mm-hmm.
and foodie. Like that's what he's known for is his, his food reviews. He'd post pictures of like just different places around Detroit, like food spots. But also he has always had a huge hatred for the Chicago Bears. So I think Detroiters were like, okay, like we love this guy already. But he has just been so supportive of me, likes my content. He's messaged me telling me like, you do a great job. It's like he didn't need to go out of his way to do that. But he has, and that's resonated with me, and that goes such a long way. And I can't imagine what he is going through right now. It just
Yeah.
hurts me to see the post he made. I think it was a week ago now. I just my heart and prayers out to him because he's given us so much love and so much to look at over the years and so many laughs. I saw the outpouring of messages to him on his final tweet that he gave us, and I hope he's felt that love right back. I'm sure you feel the same way. I don't know the interactions that you've ever had with him, but unfortunately, haven't been able to meet him in person, but online, I can just tell he's a great, great dude.
He's a big reason why I actually stayed at Woodward Sports for longer than I did. I was like one of their first hires, and I wasn't happy with my role there. And he basically sought me out and said, "You're too talented to be a contributor. You need to be running social media." And that's what happened. Gave me a way bigger position because he was a consultant at the time. And over the years, we've stayed in contact. Funny enough, me and him watched Cade Cunningham's rookie debut game together because I hit him up. I said, "You going to the Pistons game tonight?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You know what?" He's like, "Sit with me in my seat," because he had season tickets at that time. He's like, "We'll hit up Sausage Hoss," which, funny enough, Sausage Hoss was never open when he went down there, and it always used to piss him off. Like, I'll have to send this to him because I'm sure he's, I've heard he is in good spirits, but every time he's just like, they're never open. I'm just gonna buy them out. I want my sausage. But I have a lot of love and respect for him because he's done a lot for me. Even like when I was in between jobs, he was sending me job interviews, like through LinkedIn. Like I remember he said, "You should go apply for Fanduel," which I did, but I never got a call back. But I was like, "Hey, it's no big deal, man. It's like this is what I'm meant to do. This is what it's meant to be at this time."
Yeah. Oh, well, you know what? That's what you need, people like that in your corner to
Yeah.
tell you that when you are going through hard times, like, hey, you got this. Everything happens for a reason. You're going to end up where you're meant to. And he's one of those people that's always been so encouraging for everyone else, even if he hasn't met you. Like those are
Mhm.
special people. And so that's how I've always, seen him as. Like when I go on Twitter and I see his tweets, like I'm always laughing or I'm always seeing something positive to someone else or something about the Bears or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so great. And I love to hear that you guys like have those memories together of like seeing Cade, you said in his rookie debut and like being able to just share like, those moments. Like that's something you'll always have. So yeah, he's awesome. Andy is awesome.
Yeah, I love him. He's honestly one of the funniest people that I've ever been around. Like his love for Detroit sports and his hatred for the Bears are top notch. I love it. Like anytime I see the FTB, I think of him. Like I just don't remember the video where he actually got like a cowbell and it says FTB on it, and he just like rings the cowbell every time.
Oh my
I love him. He's so
God.
funny.
I
He's
love
so.
that. That's amazing. Oh my God.
We got a couple more. I know Kian has a question for you. Uh, you have been sharing getting to meet other broadcasters from national media or other opposing teams. Are there any unique stories or experiences from getting to meet some of them?
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of having this job is being able to meet so many amazing people and talented broadcasters and people I've like grown up watching and um you know just following on socials and like being able to either like sit next to them at a game or like going up to meet them in the press conference room, whatever it is. Yeah, I've had a lot of like kind of pinch me moments, like, oh my gosh, like the other week, our national game against the Sixers, I got to sit next to Katie George from ESPN, and it's like, okay, I watch her on college football. I've seen her work obviously on NBA basketball with ESPN, and like being able to sit next to someone like her, she took the time to ask so many questions to me about like my journey and where I want to go, and like, here's my contact info if you ever need anything. Like, it opened my eyes to like, okay, you can be at the top and still be like just the kindest, nicest human being and like offer advice. And that went a long way with me. Another person that was like, whoa, oh my gosh, Shannon Spake. She was with Fox for years covering the NFL. I remember seeing her at Lions games. She's now at the Charlotte Hornets, and I just got to see her the other day as well. And she's someone that's just like the nicest person, offering great advice. Her contact info, same thing, and like sharing her journey with me. You know, just being able to see some of these like national names, and people that I've grown up watching, like it's cool. So those are two that have stood out to me. I'm trying to think who else. Like, I mean, whenever we've played the Nets, like I got to meet Sarah Kustak, who's obviously a huge name,
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Eagle, um, Richard Jefferson, um, Kate Scott, who's play-by-play for the Sixers. Let's see, Lisa Byington, who, you know, worked in Lansing, Michigan for years, and like has a lot of familiarity around the Michigan State area. Like, I always heard about her, and like she's with the Bucks and she's incredible. Like, just so many names where it's like, oh my gosh, like I get to be around these people. So there's people that just keep popping in my head, so I'll stop it there. But there's the names that, like, it's cool, you can create those kind of relationships. So yeah, a lot of amazing talent in this industry.
Yeah, it's probably really cool, especially like when you guys are at home and you get to, see opposing, whether it's like sideline reporters or just play-by-play guys. And I would probably get starstruck because I remember when I was working at Wave, I used to run their main basketball hub called Buckets. And I remember I did stuff with Davion Mitchell, and like he is probably the funniest basketball player I've ever done stuff with. Like the guy, I feel like should be a comedian because he's just so funny. Like,
Really,
yeah,
I love that. So you got to work with him.
I got to work with a lot of basketball players. Like I got to work with Christian Wood and Jahil Okafor because we're doing some like behind the scenes stuff,
Oh,
which Jahil Okafor is actually like a really good dude. I think he just actually got a 10-day with the Pacers. He actually played for the Pistons at one point, like really early during the rebuild. And there's actually like a funny story with like Jahil Okafor is the reason why the Pistons got the first overall pick. There's like a conspiracy theory.
is there? I feel like
Yeah.
people make the, yeah, I'm sure there's like a conspiracy theory for everything, I feel nowadays.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of funny, but yeah. I did stuff for Andre Drummond when he was here in Detroit, but that was more of he doesn't run his social media. What one of his best friends does, and he was really roasting Andre, and Andre's was like, I need someone to Photoshop something. I was like, I could do it for you. He DM'd me, sent me his number, and I photoshopped it for him, and he posted it on his Instagram. And I've
Wow.
stayed in I've stayed in contact with him, throughout the years. Actually went to his house when he wasn't there, which was a whole nother story that I'm not gonna say on this podcast because it's a
So
lot.
I hear that story, but
It's a wild story. I'm not trying to get canceled on this stream, but like some of the stuff, like I've talked to former players or even current players. Like it's honestly really cool to connect with these athletes and reporters because they're human beings just like yourself. But sometimes you kind of get starstruck by it.
yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, we are all human and we're all people that just have normal day-to-day hobbies like everyone else, but also have, like, I guess, bigger jobs that put you in the spotlight. But yeah, it's like you have to remember, yeah, everyone is, you know, pretty normal at the end of the day. And it's like, it's cool to get going and talk about those normal day-to-day things like with the guys. like last night, like talking about Call of Duty with the guys in the locker room. It's like they go home and they are gamers, like so, and that's super relatable, right, to a lot of people and like a lot of Pistons fans. So yeah, to your point, it's like we are all just we're all human at the end of the day, but just some of us are more on a national stage than others, and that's just part of the job. But yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly really cool. But I do want to wrap this podcast up. I do appreciate you taking the time for over the last hour because I know you're probably extremely busy with the Pistons being home this week and all the work that you guys do over there. But I want to give you the floor to plug and promote, whether it's where people can follow you on Twitter or Instagram. I do have them both linked in the description below. So if you guys are watching right now, you want to follow Natalie, keep up with their content over at Fanduel, definitely do that. It's in the description below. And if you're an audio listener later on, I'll put it in the description as well. But floor's yours.
Okay. Well, if you guys want to, yeah, follow along with my content, watch interviews, look at my tweets, whatever it is, you can follow me on Twitter at Natalie Kerwin with the number 1. So Natalie Kerwin 1. Someone took my first and last name username years ago, so I have not been able to change it. But all of my other handles are at Natalie Kerwin. So you shouldn't have a hard time finding me on Twitter. But yeah, Instagram is at Natalie Kerwin. I post a lot on there too. And yeah, all sorts of Pistons content, and you are fantastic too at getting our content out there. So I'm always trying to share your stuff as well. And yeah, so you guys can find me active on really, those are probably my biggest platform that I use. So yes, give me a follow. Would love to interact with you guys on there.
Yeah, I mean, we got 700 people in here right now, watching live on Facebook, Twitter, and
Let's go. What's up, everyone? I don't know. Cause we started at what, like 150?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, like, I think the most I've ever had in here is like maybe 5,000 at one point during the trading deadline, which was
I was gonna
crazy.
say, which guest did you have on?
It was just me chilling, and the people were like, dude, look who it was during the Blake trade, and they're like, we just traded for
Oh,
Blake Griffin. I was like, no way.
okay. Dang,
Yeah,
5K. Okay. Hey, I'll take 700. That's awesome. Thank
yeah,
you guys
but
all for tuning in. Seriously, that means the world. And I love interacting with you guys on social, and like having these opportunities to come on this podcast is a great way to connect with you guys too, and a way for you guys to get to know me a little bit better behind the scenes, stuff that you guys don't always get to hear, I guess, during the broadcast. But no, this is awesome. The Pistons community is amazing. Seriously, I'm so blessed to like be in this space, covering this team and being around you guys.
I mean, you should start a podcast personally.
I've thought about it. And Koo told me this the other week too. Maybe you guys are onto something, because I feel like, I don't know, I kind of feel like an inkling to do it. I just don't know. I guess I just don't know. I mean, I can look up how. I feel like it's not super hard, but I just gotta
You
like
can
flush
you
out
you
what
can
the idea
you
is.
can ask me. Like I can help you out with it. Like I literally this is not sports related. This is my neighbors related because you guys are the same age. They have uh, they have like book club. It's not really book club, let's be honest. It's, drinking wine and just talking about their day. But I said, you guys should make a podcast about it. They're like, okay. I helped them get set up, and they trash men that they've dated. They talk about their lives, and it's a podcast. Like, it's honestly like, I was like, I can't believe I helped you guys set up a podcast where you're just trashing your exes for an hour or two a week.
What did you create over there? I feel like I kind of want to listen to this.
Some monsters. I was like, oh my God, like, can you guys like not talk about me? They're like, oh, we've talked about you. I was like, oh, cool.
Wow. Okay. You're like, that's not why I chose to help you guys, but here we are. Hey, they've taken it and run with it. There's no stopping them now. It sounds like this wine club.
No, but I mean, like, if you have any questions about it, I mean, I've been doing it for like 5 years. I mean, I had to actually restart because my old co-host kind of took my feeds and didn't tell me. So, but that's another story for another day. But I think this is 127 episodes, and we're doing about 3 to 5 a week. I mean, anything could literally be a podcast. Like, that's the thing.
Right. I know. Really, you can talk about whatever, and there's an audience for it. So, no, it's a good idea. I mean, I could bring in obviously the sports stuff, just my day-to-day life, fashion.
And it doesn't even it doesn't even have to be sports. Like, honestly,
Yeah,
like,
it really doesn't. That'd be fun. I'm gonna try and flush this out more, this idea, because I think it'd be cool. I think
Yeah,
that's the way of the world nowadays is like everyone's making one. All I need is just some equipment. Call it good.
webcam, a computer, and a little USB mic that I've been using for the last 5 years, and it's still goated.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. No, this has been awesome. Seriously, thank you so much for having me on. And I just I'll come on the pod anytime you want. So took long enough. Here we are.
Yeah, just let me know. You're always welcome. Like any guests I have on, always welcome. I love just talking sports and getting to know people more on a personal level. I feel like we've talked before, but like not more than like maybe like a one liner or two. So it was great to actually get to know you more as a person, as a reporter, and just overall. But we're gonna wrap this up, you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow, immediately after the Pistons Nuggets game. We'll do the post game podcast. So hopefully we keep our winning streak alive, and if we don't, you can blame me, not Natalie. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care and have a good night.